Have you ever been invited to a party? Maybe it was a birthday party or a Christmas party. Were there decorations everywhere? Were there games to play or music to dance to? Were there different types of delicious things to eat or drink? And there was probably enough for everyone. Because, of course, when you go to a party, a good host makes sure that everyone has everything they need. No one has to worry about anything. You can just enjoy yourself, have fun, and focus on the people around you. Did you know that at the beginning of the Bible, in Genesis 2, that is how the world began when it was created? Earth was an amazing place filled with everything anyone could need. It was an abundant place. There was always enough. Enough money, love, food, toys, enjoyment, safety, opportunity, years, life. It was heaven on earth. It was just like a big party where God was the host and humans were God's guests. God wanted humans to partner with God to keep the party going always. All they had to do was simply trust that God would supply all their needs and that they didn't need anything more than what they were given. Now imagine you are at a really great party filled with all the best food, games, drinks, people. You were having the best time ever, but then all of a sudden, some of the guests started acting a little strange. A few people took all the chips and popcorn and fancy finger foods into one of the bedrooms and wouldn't let anyone else have any. Then another group of people grabbed all the cookies, cake, and candy and went into the bathroom because they were worried that they wouldn't have enough for themselves. And then, since there was so little left, another group of people took all the drinks into the kitchen and stood guard around it. They were afraid that if they didn't take what they could get, there would be nothing left. The abundant party that had been generously provided by the party host turned into a fearful fight between all the guests. No one had what they needed, and everyone was scared there wouldn't be enough. Now this sounds strange, but the Bible tells us that this is kind of what happened here on earth. Although the world was created like a big abundant party, a lie was spoken by the enemy, Genesis 3, that turned the fancy and abundant party into a fearful fight. It was a lie that said that God could not be trusted, that God was keeping the best for God's self, and that the only way to get what you really needed was to hold on to whatever you could grab for yourself. And this lie turned God's abundant world into a dark place of war, starvation, and death. It is the reason why humans fight over things like toys, food, money, land, and lots of other things. We are afraid there might not be enough for ourselves. When we believe this lie, we live with the fear that there isn't going to be enough. Not enough money, love, food, toys, enjoyment, safety, opportunity, years, or life. It has made this world look nothing like heaven and more like the earth that we know, and it isn't very fun. God loved us too much to let us live in a broken earth where everyone was fighting all the time because they were scared that there wasn't enough. God wanted humans to experience the abundant party of heaven here on earth again, and God had a plan to make it happen. God chose one family, the family of Abraham, and promised to give them all the abundance that God wanted for everyone else. God promised to provide everything Abraham's family needed. All they had to do was trust that God would give it to them, and God said that if they trusted, Abraham's family would have enough not just for them, but the whole world. The whole world would experience God's generosity through Abraham's family. But that's not what happened. Abraham's descendants, the Israelites, entered a land of abundance and quickly forgot the God who had given it to them. They acted like it was all theirs and there was not enough. It led to war and Israel's self-destruction. Once again, the abundant party was ruined. But God didn't give up. God promised that someday someone would come from Abraham's family that would create a way for all people to experience God's generosity. It would be God himself. One day, God would lay down all the riches of heaven, take on the poverty of humanity, meaning God was going to become human, and come to earth. God would bring the riches of heaven with him so that everyone would be able to experience God's abundance. God wanted to turn the world into a place where there was enough once again, and God knew it would only happen if God did it. Once God was on earth, nothing could stop it, and the people couldn't wait. But they had to wait. In fact, the people waited and waited and waited. It seemed to take forever. Have you ever had to wait for something so long you thought it would never come? Maybe you feel that way about Christmas morning and all those presents you're dreaming of. That's how the people who were waiting for God came to feel. They wanted the generous gift of God's presence more than anything because they knew once God was with them, there would always be enough for everyone. Enough peace, enough compassion, enough food, enough money, enough space, enough jobs, enough love, enough acceptance, enough everything. They knew it would be worth the wait. Finally, everything was ready. The moment God had been waiting for was here. God was coming to show and teach us that God could be trusted to provide more than enough of everything we needed. Now, if you were trying to show the world the generosity of God, you might try to become really, really rich and give everything away. But God had a different plan. Instead, God became really, really poor. In the middle of a country that wasn't very nice to live in, where people were losing their land and their families to debt and poverty, an angel announced to a poor girl named Mary that she would be the one to bring a new gift to the world. At first, Mary was frightened, but the angel explained that this gift would be a baby boy and that she was to name him Jesus. He would be God's own son that has come to make earth more like the abundant party of heaven. The God who flung planets into space and kept them whirling around and around. The Almighty who made the universe with just a word. The Supreme King who dwelt in the riches of heaven. The one who could do anything at all was making himself small and coming as a baby? But Mary trusted God more than what her eyes could see. I am God's servant, she said. Whatever God says, I will trust. Sure enough, it was just as the angel had said. 9 months later, Mary was almost ready to have her baby. Now, Mary and her husband Joseph had to take a trip to Bethlehem. But when they reached the little town, they found every room was full, every bed was taken. Go away, the innkeepers told him. There isn't any place for you. Where would they stay? Soon Mary's baby would come. In that moment, it seemed like the promise of enough wasn't going to come true, until out of the corner of their eye they spotted an old tumble-down stable. And that's where God planned to enter the world. In the place where cows and donkeys and sheep stayed, in the quiet of the night, God gave the world a wonderful gift, God's self in the form of the baby, and this baby would change the world. Mary and Joseph wrapped him up to keep him warm. They made a soft bed of straw and used the animal's feeding trough as his cradle, and they gazed in wonder at God's great gift wrapped in swaddling clothes and lying in a manger. Mary and Joseph named him Jesus, Emmanuel, which means God has come to live with us, and they had all that they needed. That same night, among the other stars, a bright new star appeared. All of the stars in the dark vaulted heavens, this one shone clear. It blazed in the night and made the other stars look pale beside it. God placed it in the sky when his baby son was born to be like a spotlight shining on him, lighting up the darkness, showing people a new thing was happening. God couldn't wait for the whole world to know about the gift God had given. God had been waiting all these long years for this moment, and now God wanted to tell the world. This baby would be like that bright star shining into the night, a light to light up the whole world, chasing away darkness, helping people to see, helping people hope. And the darker the night got, the brighter the star would shine. people that you invite to parties? Are they important people? Are they popular people? Are they the people that can bring you the best presents or make you look important? Are they the ones that smell good and look good? Well, when God has a party, everyone's invited. Even people who don't smell good, aren't popular, or who other people don't think are very important. Because God loves everyone no matter what and all that stuff. Do you know who the first people God wanted to come and meet Jesus to celebrate his birthday were? A raggedy, poor, smelly old bunch of shepherds. See, in those days, people used to laugh at shepherds and say they were smelly and call them other rude names, which I possibly can't mention here. People thought shepherds were nobodies, just scruffy old riffraff. But God must have thought shepherds were pretty important indeed, because they were the ones God chose to tell first about the awesome gift of Jesus. If anyone needed to hear there was going to be enough for everyone in this new world, it was them. That night, some shepherds were out in the open fields warming themselves up by the campfire, when suddenly they turned around. Standing in front of them was a huge warrior of light, blazing in the darkness. "Do not be afraid of me," the bright shining man said. "I haven't come to hurt you. I've come to bring you happy news for everyone everywhere. Today, in David's town, in Bethlehem, God's son has been born. He is going to be king of a new kingdom where anyone who is broken can be healed, anyone who is hungry will be fed, anyone who is lonely can belong, anyone who is worried can be comforted. You can go and see him. He is sleeping in a manger." And in the next instant, a choir of angels appeared to sing a beautiful song. "Glory to God be fame and honor and all our hoorays." Then as quickly as they appeared, the angels left. The shepherds stamped out their fire, left their sheep, raced down the grassy hill, through the gates of Bethlehem, down the narrowed cobbled streets until they reached the stable. When they caught their breath, they quietly tiptoed inside and knelt on the dirt floor. This was God's great gift that would return the world to the way it was supposed to be from the beginning, sleeping in his mother's arms. It meant that even for the shepherds, there was enough room at the table, enough love, enough belonging. Around that time, far away in the east, 3 clever men saw the bright star that God had put in the sky when Jesus was born. They had been waiting for the star and knew exactly what it meant. The king they had been waiting for had been born. I'm sure if you'd been up there, you would have heard them laughing and dancing and singing until the sun came up. At dawn, they packed up their camels and wrapped gifts for the baby. They all brought their most precious treasures of all, special, sparkly, lovely smelling, gleaming things. Just right for a king. They rode their camels across deserts, up steep, steep mountains, down into deep, deep valleys, through raging rivers, over grassy plains, night and day and night, for hours that turned into days, that turned into weeks, that turned into months and months and months, until at last they reached the baby king. The 3 men knelt before the little king. They took off their rich royal turbans and gleaming golden crowns. They bowed their noble heads to the ground and gave Jesus their sparkling treasures. This baby king was the Prince of Heaven, who had become so poor that you and I could experience the riches of heaven. This baby king was the mighty God who had become helpless so that we could be helped. This baby king was the creator of heaven and earth, who had come to be a servant so that you and I could have enough. Enough peace, enough compassion, enough food, enough money, enough love, enough acceptance, enough life, enough everything. give something who already has everything. Everything you have, because whatever you give them, they will share it all with you. That's what Jesus asked from us, to give him all we have, our toys, our love, our resources, homes, food, our whole lives, and trust that because Jesus brought the generous and abundant kingdom of heaven back to earth, there will always be enough.
We're so glad that you joined us for today's Step into the Story of Christmas. My prayer is that as you leave from this place, you will find that God is more than enough. That in the places where you lack, in the places where you feel alone, that God would show up in all of the magical and crazy and supernatural ways that he does to show you that he is enough.